Hey now, welcome back to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. It is our second episode, and as always, I'm Brian Saperstein, and along with me is Rob Vale. What's going on, Rob?
Well, I'm just getting over the shock of actually, it looks like people listened to episode one, and it's fantastic. It was a crazy week last week.
Let's hit the top three and bottom three. Rob, I'm going to let you introduce us and bring us through, but we want to talk about drivers of the year.
Yeah, so we're going to go with our bottom three, right?
Sure.
I feel kind of bad doing this, so I'm just going to go through what I had, and then I'll just say why. I had kind of my third.
I feel kind of bad doing this. This is always a great intro to a section.
Yeah, well, it is, isn't it? Because these guys, the ones I'm going to pick, they're just in not very good cars, so that's already kind of like a bad. But I've gone for third worst Latifi, my second worst Schumacher. I just wanted him to be better. I just really wanted him to be better, but
not Mick.
I know, but he's just driving a car with three wheels, and they've all said that has a focus on next year's car. So hopefully, there's going to be a lot more to come from that young man. But he was just terrible. He scored no points. I think Haas scored no points in the entire season as well.
That's correct.
And Mazepin was just.
Is he your worst?
Yeah, he was my worst. And I think there was an interview. I should have written down who had said it, but somebody had said about him that he just needs to go do something else. He's just not a Formula One racer.
So my worst was also Nikita. I called him Mazepin. There is a website. How many spins did Mazepin do or something like that? I got it wrong. But yeah, Mazepin for sure. And not just for the spins, but how many times in the first half of the year did he get blue flags and not get out of the way and impact the leaders coming through? So that was Nikita. It was hard for me to give the first driver of a team a bottom award. So I don't have Mick in here. I have Lance in here because he finished behind Seb. The team as a whole was just blah this year. He took out Charles in Hungary. It never felt when things went wrong it was ever his fault. He would just yell at Brad, his race engineer, "Brad, the car's not good, Brad." And it just got really annoying after a while. I'm like, dude, your car is terrible, but you're still behind your teammate who was good 15 years ago. And so I know his dad owns the team, and I'm sure they'll put out a Canadian hit on me after saying this. But to me, Lance was the second worst. And then the third worst, I struggled with this one. I'm going to give it to Yuki. And so here's the reason I give it to Yuki. He was so far off of Pierre's final points for the year. And I know he's a rookie. That's why it's hard for me to give it to him. But you can see what the car can do. And Pierre showed what the car can do. A lot on qualifying, not always in the race. But Yuki was just behind. And he finished fourth in the last race and still finished that far down. So I gave Yuki third.
Okay, so our top three. Now we've just got to be get this one out there. It's our top three, but with Max and Lewis removed. Okay,
so remove the two champion protagonists. We take them out. What are the next three? And so I'm going to start.
Let's do our. Go on then. Let's do our third before we move on to our second. Let's do both of our thirds.
Okay, my third. And I have two, so I have to pick one. It's either George Russell. I can say it easy. George Russell, who was Mr. Saturday, who scored points, who finished second or third in Spa, or Pierre, who in my mind was the new Mr. Saturday, who showed what the AlphaTauri could do over and over in qualifying. Huge points difference on their teammates on a relative basis. But Pierre was so far ahead of Yuki and Aston Martin and Alpine. I'll say Pierre Gasly, third best non-Max and Lewis driver for me this year.
Okay. Well, I have, because I've got a bit of a soft spot for him, especially after the rain in Russia. But I've got Norris standing on my third step. I just thought he had a really solid year. Showed flashes of what I think he's going to bring next year. So yeah, I've got Norris on the third step.
Good with me. I may have him somewhere else on my podium. On my second step up, I have Smooth Operator. I have Carlos Sainz. He was fantastic. I think, and I joked last week, the number of points finishes he had to end the year was 7,500 in a row. I mean, seriously, was it 15 points finishes in a row, something? And he had some really bad Saturdays where it wasn't always his fault. in Saudi Arabia, the car was undrivable, and I'm doing air quotes for those on the podcast, and he still managed to make it happen. To me, he outpointed Charles Leclerc, who is the future of Ferrari with a 75-year contract they've never done before. It's a 5-year contract. They've never done that. Carlos came in, new car, new team, finished ahead of his teammate. I give Carlos my second step on the podium. He was fantastic in my mind.
So standing on my second step is, did you say you had Gasly on your third step?
Gasly third.
Yeah, he's standing on my second step. Right. So yeah, I just thought he had a phenomenal season, and he put that car, like you were still talking about the points differential. I think that was the reason why you gave one of your bottom drivers, because of the points differential to Gasly. Yeah, because Gasly was absolutely tearing it up in a car that shouldn't have been in some of the places he was putting it. So be interesting to see what he can bring. Well, again, we'll talk about it next week, but be interesting to see what happens if we get a level playing field on cars, what Gasly can do. So Gasly's sitting on my second step. So who's popping the champagne cork on the top step for you, Brian?
Man, it's Lando Norris. You already talked about him. I don't have to recap it all. I'll just say the first half, he was the most consistent driver in the field in terms of points, who wasn't Max and Lewis. He was fantastic. It fell off a little for him in the second half, some bad luck. And especially after Russia, it felt, I don't know what happened, but to me, Lando was my non-Max, non-Lewis world champion driver of the year 2021. He came around that sort of first 2-year bend, lost his teammate, had a new teammate, but still showed out. He was fantastic. So to me, Lando was my champion driver. How about you?
Standing on the top of my podium is the guy that you just played the sound clip for, is Sainz.
Do we need the sound clip again?
I think we do.
Smooth operator.
He was great.
He was fantastic. And he just got, I've got a soft spot for Ferrari. I've always loved the Ferrari cars. I've always wanted to see them up at the front. They've just not been really super competitive for a while now, but he got that horse prancing again. Not up at the top end as much as probably he would want, but yeah, for me, he was outside of Max and Lewis, he was my number one.
So we agreed on the top 3, just in different order, is what just happened.
Which is quite bizarre, which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so we disagreed on the bottom, we agreed on the top, but it just proves we're brilliant. And I would say, you mentioned the Ferrari. I got to say, I went into the year really hoping Charles would really do win some races like Monza from a couple years ago. I really wanted a lot from him. And unfortunately, they just kept putting his slow button on.
Slow button on.
And it hurt him. And I'm looking for more from him next year. And for everyone listening, before I let Rob close us out and say goodbye, I would just tell you that we're opening a store where we can sell merch. And there will be a red Ferrari type color shirt with the word slow button on in it, if only so I can buy it and wear it around proudly. But join us in doing so.